Alright, so I'm Andrew Garver, and this is my presentation on differentiating instruction. Ugh. Mouthful. Alrighty. What is differentiating instruction? Basically, what differentiating instruction is teaching in a way that all students, no matter what disability or learning style or learning process they possess or have, is met. So instead of standing up at the board and just lecturing all day, handing out a worksheet and having the students do that, you find a creative way to address the students that don't respond very well to sitting and taking notes. There are three major instructional elements: content, process, and product. So what content would be, what are you teaching, whether it be reading, math, science, or even on a more basic level like addition, subtraction, life cycles, that kind of stuff. The process would be where differentiating instruction really comes in. It would be the way that you present this information and the way that you get the students to remember it. And then the product would be, how do you know that the students have retained this knowledge? So, on to the next one. How do teachers differentiate instruction? Well, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but the basic thought behind it is you figure out what you need, or what students in your classroom, how they best learn. You figure out a way to teach them in a way that they will understand it, and then you figure out a way to know that they did. It's kind of like, I don't know how best to explain it. There's no right, or there's no specific way to, you can't put your finger down on differentiating instruction. It's just something that applies to all the students, that helps all the students learn what they need to learn. And there's three things to remember while planning: readiness, interests, and the learning profiles. So readiness, that would be the teacher's readiness to teach in a different way and in a different style. Interests, how do you get this, how do you make this subject interesting to the students? And then the learning profiles, that comes down to what I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Creating these learning profiles for your students. So a student who doesn't respond well to small groups, maybe you put them in a larger group, still a small group, but a larger group of those small groups, to help them really stand out, or to really understand it. The learning profiles, every child has a learning profile, and they will have a learning profile, and that's how you know where to differentiate, your instruction. Nope, that didn't work. Come on. There we go. Alright, so how do teachers prepare their students for differentiating instruction? There's a lot of things that go into this. You have to let them know that, hey, we're not going to be just, I'm not going to be standing in deliver. You know, we're going to figure out the best way to teach us all, or to teach everyone, and we're going to do it, you know. That's going to involve a lot more one-on-one time. That's going to involve a lot more small group discussions and a lot more, what am I looking for? I think I have it written down. A lot more personally designed instruction and worksheet type work for certain children. And the way that we figure out how, or what all these students, what their learning styles and learning, you know, how they learn is the action intervention models, or RTIs. It's basically the first step in this whole process of differentiating instruction. You have to figure out what students need help and how they can, or how you as the teacher can do that. So there's 4 different major models in this model. One would be problem-solving models, and that's basically a school-wide like discussion about what the student needs, how we can do it, and where and when it would be implemented. Functional assets model, it's like a kind of a testing. You know, you give everybody the same test, and then you analyze those results from there. The standard protocol, it's very specific, but it's hard to replicate. It's more for reading. Excuse me, goodness. And then the hyperzized, or it's a blended model. It's basically all 3 of those models combined into one, and it's easier to, or it's what we're probably going to do most of the time. Yeah. So on to the next one. What does differentiated instruction look like in the classroom? To more understand the students' plight in this situation, you obviously have to go through your RTI models and figure out which student needs what, where, when. And then from there, you go on, or we as teachers would go on to create a curriculum based on that. We're still teaching the same thing to every child, it's just in different ways. Calm colors, a warm learning environment, encouragement, all these things go along to help the mental state of the students, because if a child is stressed out, not calm, not ready to learn, then they're physically not going to be able to learn. The science is there with the neuroscience. If a child isn't given the opportunity to learn in the calmest way, then they're not going to retain anything. So, all right. So correcting non-differentiated instruction. So delivering instruction primarily by lecturing. Now, the reason why that isn't differentiated instruction is because not all students respond the way that we would hope to lecturing, I suppose. I think lecturing was kind of boring, and I would like to do a little more with my lessons. But anyway, not all students respond well to lecturing, so therefore we have to find another way around it. The example I gave here is split up into small groups, read the chapter, discuss the chapter in your small groups, write your discussion down, answer a little bit, and then we come back to the big group, discuss it again, make sure everybody's on the right page, and then we have an assignment. Another way would be reading out loud in class, although I'm not too high on that. Getting kind of a glare here. Read as a class, which I think that's just too easy to not retain anything, or to kind of slack off. Another way would be to learn through an activity, especially in your science classes and your history classes. You can read, or you can learn through an activity that you have to make it, that the kids will respond to. The next one was doesn't permit students to retake tests that have failed. I think that's ridiculous, especially in elementary school. Students, if there's 100 different reasons why a student would have a hard time taking a test, or if they hadn't studied, they hadn't studied, but still, not all students take tests alike, and giving another chance to a student there's going to have to be parameters around this second test, but in my opinion, I think what I would do would be I would allow them to go back and redo the ones that they've missed. You can have a day to review your notes and all that, and then come back and redo all the ones that you've missed for partial credit. You could also, in that situation, you could also get or you could allow it to be open book so they know that they're getting the right ones. Another thought on that would be, for every failed test, you get a study guide that you have to go through. That's over the same things as the test. You get a study guide that you have to go through, turn in, make sure that it's right, and then you redo your test for partial credit. But that makes sure that you know, or that the student knows what was on the test. So, thank you very much.